All right. What's going on, Gators Breakdown Plus members?
What's going on, Dave?
Oh, just a little Sunday afternoon chat with you guys. Been a relaxing weekend. Not too many of those left. with the season a couple weeks, with the season a couple weeks away. So, which it's I guess relaxing in its own ways, but that's just because it's football. But you guys know how it is when the season rolls around. We have the Sunday episodes. I'm still determining how I'm going to do that. I know you guys like the kind of immediate reactions on Saturdays, and for home games, that's still kind of going to be the plan. For earlier home games, I'll still try and cut them from the stadium. I know you guys enjoyed that from the Ole Miss game last year. That was the last home game, and that made a lot. That made a lot of sense. So I'm going to try to do that. Continue to do that. Reminder, guys, if you're not talking, hit that mute button on your end, so we don't get the background noise and the random stuff going on. But thanks for hopping in here, everybody.
Yes, sir, for sure.
We will talk that final scrimmage for the Gators. Season a couple weeks away. One more scrimmage. Not a ton coming out from it that I think is earth-shattering or anything, but we'll get into it. Plenty to get into with that one. But some intel I threw in the Discord this morning from some eyes that were there. It was like an alumni weekend or something. So there was a lot more people at the scrimmage. It wasn't the open like Florida Victorious Open thing a couple weeks ago or last week. And all that good stuff, but there were a little more eyes on this scrimmage, so maybe why they invited so many people. They knew it was kind of going to be a calm scrimmage that it was, and we can go from there. But there's some talking points. And then of course the Lagway side of things, of course, that's kind of where the conversation starts and continues to ramp up some discussion. We'll get into that as well, but. Yeah, that's where we'll go. Anything you guys want to hit on first before we get into the scrimmage? We'll certainly chat about the scrimmage afterwards, or some other topics. I guess I should say.
Been hearing a lot of good things about freshmen I didn't expect to hear about it. I heard some good things from Miles Johnson out of the scrimmage.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That's kind of what the scrimmage was. More for the young guys, more for the depth pieces. But let's just go ahead and get into it. Lagway did sit out the scrimmage, of course, not participating in this one, in neither the 7-on-7 or the 11-on-11 drills. So mostly precautionary. I think they're still trying to figure out the backup spot. I think we kind of know that's kind of been up in the air throughout fall camp. So, with Lagway, I think mostly precautionary. We'll see. Like he said last week, there wasn't a game Saturday, so if he could have gone, Billy Napier pretty keeping it coy at that. But I don't think anything serious there. Of course, I think mostly just the calf strain. I think the shoulder, the upper body, the hamstring that was dating back from the end of last year, all throughout spring. I think mostly that's pretty gone right now, and the calf strain that happened right before fall camp starting kind of seems to be what's the kind of the issue that's still there a bit, and being precautionary as far as that goes. Expanding past Lagway, notable players, Trey Wilson III, Dallas Wilson, Khalil Jackson at receiver did not participate. Caleb Banks. Aaron Gates, I've heard he did and he didn't, so that's the one that's kind of been lost in translation there, if he was taking part or limited in the scrimmage. LJ McCray did not take part either. Grayson Howard was participating in 7-on-7, but not 11-on-11. And guys, the most important part, while we are talking about who did not take part and who did take part, there were no injuries as far as this scrimmage goes. So that's the most important part that we will take away from this final scrimmage for the Gators for the 2025 fall camp. There were no more injuries to add to the list. So my source that was there said there was very, very little one-on-one. Your first team versus first team that's probably the better way to put that. And when there were, it was a few good plays for the offense, but the defense did not let them score. Kind of expected, of course, with no Lagway. It was toward the end of the scrimmage and kind of like the 2-minute session. That's when the ones and the first team versus first team happened. Aiden Warner had the strongest showing among the quarterbacks. He got more first team reps than the Louisville transfer Harrison Bailey. And it does seem like Warner maybe at least this past week, kind of separated himself from the others. Tramel Jones, of course, is kind of closing that gap too. But there have been some question whether it be Warner, whether it be Harrison Bailey. Warner had the much better week this past week, it seems like, and had the opportunities in the scrimmage, and he certainly took advantage of it. Made steps, better. Warner, I know he's not winning many games for Florida if he has to go out there, but it has made steps. Is better than last season. I do think that much is evident. I'd still question how many games the guy could win if he's the quarterback at any point in the season, though. And my source that was there said what stood out. One of the things that stood out was DJ better play. So Warner moved the offense better than 15 and 17 was the feedback. Tramel Jones, as I said, did get some reps with the first team as well, and he's just continuing to chop along. So I think good to hear from him as a true freshman, being able to at least throw his name into the mix. I think if Florida had a game, he wouldn't be the second team quarterback right now or anything. But as the season goes along, and if he continues to kind of progress as he is, I think he'll get that opportunity if the games call for it to go in there and get some second team reps and see how he does in that game situation. But certainly in the mix and can make some plays with his legs as well. So. Anything on quarterbacks that you guys want to talk about? And, I'll throw it up. And you guys, we can kind of go with this conversation piece as well. One of the earlier feedbacks when I posted the intel in the Discord, of course, was Lagway and excitement. And maybe it's kind of the excitement waning a bit. His limitation is it dampening the excitement here. So I threw up the poll earlier today on Twitter as well to get a lot more feedback. And does DJ Lagway being limited in fall camp dampen your excitement for the upcoming season? And 57% at about 600 votes say no. They're still excited for the season. But 57% to about 43%, of course. The 43% are saying, yeah, it does dampen their excitement. So that storyline is still going to be out there. And we all know, we've kind of just said it, we'll feel better when he's out there in game-like situations throwing. But with Lagway, with Warner, with what's going on at quarterback and this last scrimmage of 2025 fall camp, what you guys thinking?
Does it definitely worry you, Dave, that Warner's ahead of Bailey right now? Does that give you any worry?
Oh, that's a good angle to it all. I say no, and I think an angle to that for me is if we're getting to that point, I just don't think it's going to matter. Big picture, anyway. So maybe that's where I go. I don't think either one of them are going to lead Florida to where we want them to be. I just think that's just where I sit with it, and that's not unique to Florida. I don't think there's a lot of second team quarterbacks. There might be a couple teams out there where I'll say, all right, Florida will win more games if I could go have that second string quarterback, but there ain't many of them out there. So no, not really. I do think Warner has probably taken steps to being better than what he was a year ago. I still don't think that's enough. Is that enough for LIU? Sure. It should be enough for USF and probably somewhat of an ugly game. Maybe a Kentucky type, maybe a Mississippi State type, but that is about it, in my opinion. So, could the defense ugly up a game? Sure. But at the same time, I think if we're relying on backup quarterback for any extended amount of time, that will dampen my excitement for a season.
Yeah, we kind of saw what Aiden Warner brings to the table last year. So it's all riding on DJ.
Yeah, with an offseason where he's getting more second team reps and, and all that, can he be better? Sure. It's just in the grand scheme of things, big picture, I just don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's not going to be good enough to compete in the SEC.
No.
Other than, like you said, a couple games. So we need DJ out there. I mean, I'm a little concerned. I'm one of those people that are a little worried about his health, and he needs to be out there week one, I think, even if it's at the cupcake and only for the first half. I mean, he needs as many live reps, as he can get before LSU, because he didn't have any in the spring. He hasn't had any in the fall. I mean, he hasn't seen any since the bowl game last year, and I still kind of think he's got some area of his game he needs to improve on. And I mean, he can take all the mental reps he wants and watch all the film. I mean, the best way to improve it is to get out there and actually work on your craft, in real game situations.
It does definitely open it up for questioning. No doubt about that. He could come out and we could not know. I go back and I have maintained this, before fall camp started, my win-loss percentage or win-loss record for Florida wasn't going to change because DJ Lagway missed spring camp. It wasn't spring practice. Maybe orange and blue glasses. I'm still kind of there now, but it does certainly throw it more into question. It really does, with all the limitations that he's had and the lack of reps, lack of full reps with his receivers, and that maybe we hear about the offensive line stuff and just in sync with the offensive line. That's been a thing about offensive line, and that's more in tune with the run game, about being in sync. But still, I think there's some to it of your quarterback and offensive line as well. But thankfully, look, he's not your typical sophomore quarterback. I mean, he did get a lot of reps last year, and I think that will go a long way. He's not brand new walking into this, so I think that's where the hope still kind of comes through. But I blame no one for questioning a bit more about, will this limit what Florida will be in 2025?
I think it's just like a concern of, will he last the whole season? Sure, they may be holding him back, and he'll be ready for the first week and be ready for LSU. But what about after that? How likely is something else to happen? I think it's I mean, that can happen with anybody, any team. I get that. It just seems like there's been multiple small things with him already throughout the last 2 seasons, even last year when he had the hamstring. So I mean, that's the only real concern I have. Like, I'm not worried that we're going to lose to LIU or South Florida if DJ's not there. I am concerned we're going to lose to LSU if he's not prepared and ready, and as close to 100% as he needs to be for that game. I think he needs reps weeks before that. I think. Yeah, personally, that's just me.
Yeah, and I think me going back to bringing up last year too, I think we do know there is at least a proof of performance where if he's not 100%, Florida can still win some games. So
yeah,
there is that there is that side of it too. But but those games were at home, against the better opponents. Now FSU was terrible last year, and you can go beat them on the road. But if that game against LSU last year had been in Baton Rouge, does it turn out that way? Does the Ole Miss game turn out that way? If those games if that game's in Oxford, I do think it was a big help with that defense improving, that they had the 90,000 fans behind them as well. So you got those games 3 and 4 that are on the road. Can you replicate the magic of at home with a not 100% DJ Lagway if you have to?
It definitely makes me wonder if he's not exactly where we need to be, if Billy holds him out of the lesser games, like let's say he beats let's say if he beats LSU and Miami back to back, and a few of the other big teams, if he holds them out, Kentucky and Florida State and some of these other teams that we don't think are going to be good.
I don't think so. If he's rolling, if he's rolling, I don't think so.
Good point.
If it's still questionable with if he's, but to me that would mean he's got to be nowhere near 100%.
For a limited capacity for DJ in those situations.
Corey, when you jump in, Corey, you got to quit jumping in like that. Let it breathe for a second before you come in. Let it breathe for a second before you come in.
Been holding my breath, Dave.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. It's just not the first time. Just not the first time. That's the only feedback I get right there, by the way, with some of these. But I definitely do want you to hop in. I do want you to voice your thoughts. But yeah, I just think holding him out for, games that he'd have to be nowhere near 100% and just kind of maybe hanging on by a thread in the games that he is playing.
So you're saying basically it had to be Texas last year for them to sit him down, basically, you think?
What you mean, like the scenario where he just couldn't go?
Yeah. I'm saying, like, if he's just so far gone, like he's like, sitting in a wheelchair, can't go.
Yeah. I don't think you want to take your chances, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I know it's not the ultimate goal, but if he's in if Florida's winning games and he's in the Heisman run and all that stuff, I mean, the voters would probably be smart enough to know, well, he's not 100%. Yeah, he didn't play against Kentucky. Yeah, he didn't play against Mississippi State. So the overall stat number probably wouldn't go into it either. But, I'd like to. And look, here's the thing, man. We only got 2 more years of DJ Lagway. This season and next season. I want to see number 2 out there as much as possible.
Oh, I agree. I just,
No, you're for, yeah, you're right.
With being so, like, backloaded, being so, like, and it's not, we're not tough teams on the back side of the schedule. I just it runs through your head. I mean, it may not ever materialize or anything, but it gets running through your head. It's like, maybe we got hot here, and we know we can beat Kentucky with Aiden Warner. So,
well, I mean, going to your point, yeah, you limit him if you can. I mean, if you're up by 21 going into halftime, yeah, DJ Lagway has no business being out there in the second half.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But what if he's in a Heisman race, Dave? Got to pad the stats.
That's a good point too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're throwing my pie back in my
Man,
face
we
there.
don't even know if he's healthy. Come on now.
We can come back around to that, but let's hop into some more intel right here from the last scrimmage here. It was redshirt freshman KD Daniels. He had like a 50-yard run. Best play of the day on offense, and he certainly looks like the number 3 back behind Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson. Amir Jackson at tight end, of course. Like I said, I think this was set up to get some of these younger guys some reps. So Amir Jackson seemed to be taking advantage in this scrimmage setting. Had a touchdown catch. Apparently he's coming along really nicely as well. Maybe the play of the day as far as the passing game goes, TJ Abrams catches a pass in the end zone along with Nashawn Montgomery, but it was Abrams who caught a really nice catch in the back of the end zone from Aiden Warner, about a 30-yard touchdown. My source that was there did say, quote, Warner had him, talking about TJ Abrams or somebody else on that same route earlier, wide open and didn't throw it. We were all like, let it ride. So this thing seems like maybe they came back to that and it was there again, and Aiden Warner hit it this time. But from all I can gather was a really nice throw in the back of the end zone there. And we saw in the last scrimmage the catch and run to Vernell Brown III that Aiden Warner had as well. So, some nice catching, some nice touchdown passes there from Aiden Warner to some young wide receivers. My source also said, talking about the passing game, not having 3 and 6 showed up too, talking about both of the Wilsons. He wasn't wowed by any other of the wide receivers in this setting, but keep in mind there was no Lagway. If we go to the other side of the ball, the big play was Michael Carraway Jr., a 100-yard pick six was the play of the day, but going back to the source that was there, said, quote, that wouldn't have been a pick 6, 100-yard, as the guys didn't even really try to tackle him. So there you go. That's kind of in the scrimmage setting. As far as players go, guys, I did warn, and I saw the conversation here as well in the main chat about, Cormani McLean and, about the hype of Cormani McLean. We saw the images out there of him among the other DBs, and I retweeted that about, you can definitely tell he's got the weight gains and the muscle gains there. But it's kind of going back to another topic that we hit on earlier this week is how much do you trust the camp intel? How much do you trust the camp hype? Well, one, I'm buying stock in because we just keep hearing it over and over again. And I don't think this is pulling anybody's leg here. And this, we could get in trouble because it's a true freshman as well. But as Jaden Woods, his name just keeps coming up. It comes up way too much for there not to be something here, for there not to be this guy to be a contributor this time. At some point this season, an interception, a strip sack, a tackle for loss. My source said he was, quote, showing up in pass rush, in the quote, very noticeable. And this is some preseason hype I'm buying some stock in. This is the guy that I really think is going to play, even at a position I think Florida's pretty deep in. Well, he's one of the reasons Florida's deep in it, but even as a true freshman, I expect Jaden Woods to be a contributor here at the edge spot. Speaking of edge, George Gums Jr., Tyreek Sapp, they had themselves a day. Cameron James as well, talking about the F spot with Tyreek Sapp and Cam James. But those guys kind of seems to be the theme of fall camp so far, is the guys that you expect at that spot to be stepping up are stepping up and causing pressure, causing disruption. That continued in the scrimmage as well. Linebackers, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs were the starters for the second straight scrimmage. Does make you wonder with Pup Howard being limited, Jaden Robinson as well, who's going to be starting game one. It wouldn't be surprised. I think Miles Graham's got a starting role lined up. Who's going to be the guy beside him, I still think is in question, but Aaron Childs seems to be developing along pretty nicely as well. And going back up front, Joseph Mbachu continues to show out. Apparently he had 2 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. Quote, he's going to be good in coming at that. Dijon Johnson was back there at cornerback, returning to action after missing last week's scrimmage. Him and Cormani McLean were both out there. Cormani McLean would have had a sack if they were counting sacks in this scrimmage. And then Javari Flowers being out there as a freshman, so making some plays with Ben Hanks. As the freshman cornerbacks were getting a little more work in this one. My source said he likes what he sees from the young guys with Hayward, Conan Banny, and Flowers out there. So one more time, this scrimmage, more about getting younger guys, some depth pieces, more reps, and figuring out their roles as we go into the first game of the season. Overall, the defense was the more impressive unit again, mainly, of course, maybe partly to do with Lagway's absence. The linebackers and running back groups stood out in this scrimmage. So we've talked quarterback. There's all the other parts of the scrimmage. But, yeah, I'm just telling you, if there's one player that I'm buying the stock on, I'm buying the hype on, that is going to be one Jaden Woods.
Yeah, I like Jaden Woods, Dave. But can you speak a little more about how Cormani's been doing in camp? Because we were having a little discussion in the chat there a little earlier about, it's obvious you could see the physical gains, like just in his pictures. But what is he catching up on the technique and the why and the how and everything, the daily stuff? And can he be like a legit, like, okay, Devin Moore goes down like we expect, he's going to step right in and carry us for a little bit? Because I think that's a big question a lot of people have about him at this point in his development.
Yeah, it is, and that does date back to the spring as well. Him getting a lot of reps in the spring too, and that is one of those things I think a lot of people are going to just have to see to believe. I think a lot of people are buying the hype of Cormani McLean. Like I said, physically you can see he's put in the work. With that physicality has to be him being able to hold up in more physical coverage that we got to see. But the thing that a lot of people are circling about Cormani McLean as he gotten better in tackling, and you can kind of see with him being the lanky type that he was before. It maybe still some is now, but he's certainly got a more physical stature to him than he had. But where tackling wouldn't be his strong suit, something that we know he's going to definitely have to work on. Well, now that he's got the weight and the muscle gains, that probably I hope gives him a little more confidence in being able to work on that part of his game. That's just something I think we're going to have to wait and see with our own eyes. I mean, the camp intel's been good there too, that, yeah, he's in on tackles, not shying away from contact. But, we'll see when you go against a physical offensive line like Miami in Game 4. or the offensive lines you're going to play once you get into SEC play as well. You certainly hear the good things. You really do. But in all the limitation that we have, we're all getting secondhand info here for the most part. So I'm cautiously optimistic, cautiously buying into it that I think he will be much better. But it is one of those things. Let's just wait and see.
What are we hearing about the safety room, Dave? Because I know Caraway had that interception. I mean, have you heard much about him, or is he just going to be like a depth guy?
Yeah, I think he's going to be mostly a depth guy. But going to that is fun. I forgot who I was talking about, who I was talking to. I think it was Neil Blackman. It was Neil Blackman. He and I were having some conversations. Privately, but nothing that we can't say publicly. And he and I were saying, look, it is. I won't necessarily say odd. Maybe that's not the right word for it. But we just really have, and it could be a good thing, we haven't heard a lot of Jordan Castell and Bryce Thornton. Now, well, on the next episode of Gators Breakdown on Monday, when I get back together with Will, we're going to profile those guys when they talk to the media and all that stuff. But as far as intel goes and like who's making plays or who's not making plays, who's struggling or something like that, one way or the other, I don't hear much about Jordan Castell and Bryce Thornton. So I'm hoping that's a good thing and not a bad thing. But I honestly, and maybe I'll ask around more as we're past this second scrimmage. We only get media availability once this week. That's with Billy Napier on Monday. So maybe I can start asking around a bit more and say, hey, how far along has this safety group come? Because besides the depth pieces on the interior of the defensive line, I think the jump at safety, especially for Jordan Castell, and then can Bryce Thornton continue how he ended last year? What's the status of those two guys? So that's the group I still have questions on too, because I just really, and it could be a good thing, just haven't heard a whole lot about Jordan Castell and Bryce Thornton.
And hopefully that's just because they're just playing solid. They're doing their job. I'm hoping that's what it is.
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
I was gonna say no news is good news, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping.
That's where I'm leaning, but that's that is buying into the it's talking season and everything's good till it's not right now. But let's see. I'm intrigued at linebacker. I really am. I think it's a deep group, and I think it's going to prove to be a deep group. And I want to see when the season rolls around, because I think Florida's got 4 good ones, and I think Florida feels very comfortable with the 4 that they have. By the time we get to the end of the season, I know we talk about this with running back a lot and how you disperse carries. I want to see how the snaps at linebacker are dispersed, because I feel pretty confident about 4 of those guys.
This is the last group I worry about, Dave. It doesn't even come into my mind. I'm more interested in what Childs is going to be doing up on the edge from this group. I'm more interested about that.
Yeah, I want to see how much he gets used there, for sure. It's just, and I know talking to people closer to the program, I just want to repeat what you said, Corey. They're not worried about that group. There is a lot of confidence coming from the staff, the people inside the building about this linebacker room. And I know I think we go back to the preseason magazines, and I just had Brett Ciancia on, and Florida's linebacker group, it's pegged in some of those unit rankings as being good, but I think most of them, they kind of get overlooked. They're a little bit lower ranked in the SEC. Then by the time we get to the end of the season and we start looking at the unit rankings next year for Florida's linebackers, it's going to be a lot higher than what we are hearing in June, July, and August going into the 2025 season. I think circle that group.
So you think Todd Jackson and Miles Johnson play this year, Dave?
Early on, yeah. I mean, I hope. Save these guys. The 4 that we're talking about with Graham and Childs and Pup Howard and Jaden Robinson. I think those guys might get some burn early, but when conference play wraps up or cranks up, You go here for those main four.
Yeah, we'll see how thin we are come week 16, right, Dave?
Week 16, I like that. Yeah. Yep. I know where you were going with that.
Do you expect Cormani to live up to his 5-star hype coming out of high school? Because as of
5-star.
now, I personally don't think he has.
Oh, no, he definitely hasn't. Now, no, going back to the conversation we just had about him, no, he hasn't lived up to the 5-star status. No, not by any means. I think we'll get that answer this fall. I think we'll either have the glimpse that he's going to be that guy. Dijon's not going to just lightly go away either in that competition for cornerback 2. And as somebody just brought up as well, Devin Moore can't stay healthy, then he's going to. I think Cormani's going to have every opportunity this fall to prove that he can be that guy, that he can be that 5-star. But I like what Dijon brings to the table as well. I like what Devin Moore brings to the table as well. So if he's splitting reps, I don't necessarily think that'd be a bad thing. But I think he'll be on the field enough to where we will get the answer to that question, or at least we can lean into that question a little bit more. Say, okay, maybe next year we get the full answer, but we'll have the confidence coming out of this year that he can be that 5-star and live up to that 5-star ranking next year.
So if, let's say, he does not bad, but not necessarily that great, would you say it was worth, the trouble it was to get him to Florida, considering all the clowning he did in his recruitment and going to Colorado and all that, and then what Sanders had to say about him?
If he's a net positive player for Florida, yeah, sure. I mean, I have forgotten. I mean, no, I don't mean forgotten what happened. I'm just okay. Best way to put it, I've moved on from that stuff.
I
Apparently,
think everybody just hopes the best for him, and like we're lucky to have him back.
Yeah.
He's going to be good.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, I don't have any issue there. I think he'll end up being a positive player for Florida. I don't expect any of that stuff to resurface. I don't expect. I mean, apparently he's been just a model teammate, in the last year or so. So I'm a Cormani fan. I hope it works out. I think when his career is said and done, we'll all have just kind of moved past that recruitment and the maybe early troubles he had right after he transferred.
We don't know yet. He could have a brick at one point.
I hope he does.
I mean, I agree. We've heard a lot of positive things,
Yeah.
and if he has made that turnaround, then I think he has a very, very good chance at living up to what everybody thought he could be. He just maybe he had to grow up.
Yeah. Yep. There's a realization that comes with being a 5-star at times. You get rated at 5-star and maybe don't think you have to quite put in the work as much. And then there's a wake-up call. And then you eventually get back to that status at one point. I think probably where we're at with this one.
He could end up a 50th player, right?
Oh, he could be. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think if this is what, his third year? Yeah. This is his third year? Yeah. So this is his third year. I mean, I would assume next year would be, I mean, if he takes the steps, I mean, next year, I mean, if he takes the steps we want him to this year, I don't think he takes that leap into being, all right, well, he's 3 years and going to the NFL. I think he's, after his third year, coming back for his fourth year, starting for the number 1 cornerback spot. Then that's what we're looking at.
Haven't we already set that precedent with players that could go to the draft and bring them back for, some guaranteed money?
Yeah. Like right. To me, he's not going to improve that much this year to where he's going to be like one of the top corners taken. So yeah, he'll be.
Oh no, I'm not saying this year. I'm
yeah.
saying like this guy could be around for a few more years.
Yeah, maybe. Anything else? Maybe from the scrimmage or anything else through fall camp? you guys want to discuss. There'll be a lot of player interviews coming up this week on the podcast. Let's see, Miles Graham, Cam James. We'll get some offensive linemen talking as well. We'll hear from the safeties this week too. We're not hearing from any of the players this week, so kind of saved a lot of that for this coming up week on Gators Breakdown. So we'll be hearing a lot from the players.
Been hearing a lot of good things about Joseph Mbachu. I mean, do you think he plays a ton this year, Dave?
I think so. I mean, I think there's an opportunity there for guys to prove that they can play. So with DeAndre Robinson transferring out, I mean, you bring Brendan Bett in, but a lot of it, when we go back to what can Florida do in the transfer portal, a lot of us were wanting two defensive tackle types. So with Robinson transferring out, you bringing in Bett, I still think that opens up if a young guy can prove that they deserve some reps and 10 snaps a game maybe. Once conference play starts, maybe more if he proves that he can earn that, or anybody can earn that as a young guy. But with Banks and Bett and Burrow and Lyons in there, I mean, I think you can find him a spot.
Do you think the staff's feeling a lot better about the depth now with the defensive tackle now that because we lost Robinson? You think they're feeling better now, or are we still concerned?
I think that might depend on how far Bett comes, how far he comes along.
Right.
I'm not ready to I don't know totally where the inside of the building is on. I mean, I think they like the room. As far as how confident, as far as how deep it goes, I don't know. That's just that's one of those position groups where I just think it's down and dirty, and I want to see the bullets fly before knowing how guys can hold up there, especially young guys.
So
They seem. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, it just seems like the defensive line has been holding up quite a bit in camp. That's everything we keep hearing is the defense is dominating the offense. So, and we know there's a few skill positions there, obviously, that aren't there. But the names we've heard before camp and now that are actually contributing in camp, I feel a little better, I think, about the whole group, especially on the interior, with all these names popping up like Mbachu and the Brown transfer we brought in from junior college at the beginning of
Brian Taylor.
year. Like, yes. We know the SEC size that they've recruited is there. So the bodies are there. If you end up having some more injuries down the stretch, I mean, there are still guys here.
There are
that can develop through down the stretch of the season when things can get really tough, when you're getting thin.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we saw last year in the secondary. Some guys had to be thrust in there because of all kinds of injuries, and definitely showed up and showed out. The front line of the defensive line, man, I'm so high on that group. The names that we've thought we would hear with the Caleb Banks and the Tyreek Stapps and George Gums. I think you feel great. Can Jamar Lyons be that guy? We just recently discussed him on the podcast. Hopefully he can be the guy that we thought he would be a year ago. But certainly he's got the right mental approach to be that guy. So I think, that starting, Caleb Banks, Jamari Lyons, Tyreek Stapp, George Gums, that front line four, you feel really, really, really good about. I think we'll go a long way for this group, but we all know it's going to become about what the guys can do behind them. They're not going to be able to play every snap. You don't want them playing every snap. We want those guys on the field and as fresh as they can be in the fourth quarter to be changing, making game-changing plays in the fourth quarter. Well, that's only going to happen if the guys behind them show up. Corey, put your mic on mute. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, shoot. That me?
Yeah.
I mean, I think setting up the guys for success behind them is having really great leaders like Slaughter. I think he is probably a fantastic leader in that locker room. That's probably setting up the people behind him up for success where they can step up if they need to because they've been put in that position to be able to.
Yeah, that goes for that'll go for the defense too. I like the quote from Cam James this week about kind of. I don't want to misquote it. Let me see if I can find it. It was basically he was a starter. He was a starter last year, and then kind of eventually lost his job to Tyreek Sapp. And he's basically saying don't want to be entitled. But it's like you say, he can't take it too personally. I mean, you can because you want to be a starter. But talking about Sapp, he got the hot hand. He found his way. I was young. I was producing, but he became the number 1 ranked passer in the nation. That's what Cam James was saying about Tyreek Sapp. So he goes, envy can be the death of players. I could have hit the portal. You can't do that. You got to stay down and grind just the same way as Sapp was as an older player. I started over him. I could have easily said, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going for this. But he didn't do that. He stayed down, so he kept his head down. Cam James did and put in the work, and apparently has had a really nice fall camp as well. So I think Florida's got some really, really good depth. And he's one name that probably gets overlooked a bit because of Tyreek Sapp and some of the other names that we've heard at edge. But Cam James, I think, is going to be a pretty key piece, and I think he can learn from guys like Tyreek Sapp, and on the other side of the ball, Jake Slaughter, and you need that unselfish attitude, and for the whole team, but especially in the trenches. I mean, it is the group of names that get overlooked a lot. You got to put in a lot of hard work. You don't get the notoriety a lot of the skill players get, and it's a lot more developmental, especially along the offensive line and the defensive line. But defensive line is developmental too. It's going to take some time. You may not be playing a whole lot as a true freshman, as a redshirt freshman, young, early in your career. But those are positions where you kind of just got to stick it out. And then Tyreek Sapp is probably the best example of it. And we're seeing him reap the rewards right now. I mean, I think there's some good leadership, some good head on some shoulders here in the depth pieces for Florida.
Dave, can you tell us a little bit about how Bryce Lovett's been looking?
See, he spoke to the media. I was definitely going to. That was one player I was really going to hit on this week because he spoke to the media recently. So I was going to talk more offensive line. It's him and Najee Harris. So as far as some offensive line talk, we'll kind of base it off what they say in the media setting from last week. But certainly the new face there along route at the right tackle spot. I think certainly still. Maybe for lack of a better term, but I'll throw it out there anyway. With 4 or 5 returning right tackles, probably still the quote-unquote weak link of the offensive line. And I don't necessarily mean to take the shot at him for that. I'm just saying, compared to the other guys, compared to the experiences coming back from the other players, that's still the position that might be the biggest question for Florida's offensive line. I don't think, it's certainly... You put him on the pedestal of the other guys. I still think that's going to be the position that you look out for as far as the offensive line goes. I think it'll be fine when it's all said and done. I think he'll be a good player. I haven't heard he doesn't belong, and I think I'd hear the truth about that there at right tackle, especially going back to all the talk we were talking about a year ago when I got jumped on about the offensive line talk. I don't feel the way I felt a year ago, and that's kind of even zooming in on Bryce Lovett at right tackle. I think he'll be a good player there. I don't think he will hold back what they want to do up front along the offensive line.
And who did he beat out for the job? Was it Caden Jones?
Caden Jones, but I guess say beat out, but he was. Coming out of last year, going into spring, he was kind of he was kind of pegged to be the guy I mean, of course you want competition, and I do think there, has been competition, but I think it was just maybe his, like a better way to put it, I think it was his job to lose.
Hey, Dave, before we get too far away from offensive line, do you think that there's enough depth at every position to, like, if the right tackle position doesn't solidify in the first few weeks, that, like, there's enough bodies to maybe figure that out as we go through the season? Because obviously nothing's going to prove it any more than live fire, right?
Yeah, I mean, Lagway's King Arthur, you just brought it up. I mean, I think Caden Jones, early in the season, you're going to see him get his chances and see what he brings to the table at the spot. You've heard Billy Napier say, and it is not lip service, I think they really do like what they have at guard. They really feel good about the four deep going there with Harris and George, your starters. But Kearney and Cam Waits to go along with those guys, and Amella's coming along there at the center spot if the worst was happened to Jake Slaughter. But I still say I'd probably worry more about the depth at tackle than I do guard. Just haven't seen a whole lot, or even heard a whole lot about depth at tackle as much as I've heard about guard and how impressive the guard spot is. So you get your Fletcher Westfall in there too in that competition for backup tackles.
Yeah,
But,
I haven't heard anything about Fletcher Westfall.
right. So we're not going to hear everything in fall camp either. It's just, especially without being there and seeing it ourselves. I mean, like I said, you're relying on a lot of secondhand information. It's very, very limited, as we all know. So it's. You might get a little tiny bit here or there, but so I still think, it's a developmental spot. How much playing time? For me, it's how much playing time can they get early. I mean, I think when you look at LIU, your first string is probably, or at least should not be in there a whole ton. So I think who knows how much that's going to prove. I mean, LIU is going to be so outmatched, but you're getting your live reps there. But I hope we don't have to see it. I hope when those guys are in there, it's because it's kind of planned. It's a blowout. They're getting their reps. Or if you guys need a breather and you want to go out there and see what they do. There's opportunities as well, but with four or five starters coming back,
time to mess around, Dave. There's plenty of time to mess around with the lines of scrimmage in those first two games. I mean, I hate to discount USF, but if we are who we are, that's we still get to mess around with what we're doing, but. The key thing for us still at that point, Dave, is going to be whether or not we still even know what the status of DJ Lagway is. I don't see him getting a ton of play up to this point.
What, in early in the season?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. That was one of the first topics. It is the question is how much he plays.
Well, I mean, the reason I bring it back up again is tempers every discussion we have.
Oh yeah, he's the key to it all. I think he plays game one. I mean, if we're 2 weeks out, I think DJ Lagway would be out there game one.
Speaking of the QBs, is Warner falling behind in the competition? I've been hearing a lot about Bailey getting more reps than usual. Are they just trying to figure out who they have behind Lagway, or is he really beating out Warner?
Warner had a better week this past week. I do know that. So from everything I can gather after discussions yesterday and this morning, I would say Warner's the guy right now. But I do think up to this point it kind of has been teeter-totter, and I think a little bit of seesaw there. It could be, as you said, I think Bailey was probably playing a bit better as fall camp started. I think Warner has started to come along. We know Tramel Jones has certainly started to come along. So I do think, it could be ever evolving. I know the staff has said it before. Whoever has a better week of practice, that will go a long way, and who can be the guy. But with the concerns for Lagway and his injuries or whatever, I think it will probably be pretty clear, or they'll be figuring out who it is pretty clearly to give more of the reps to, in case that has to be the guy. So I do think we'll have a clear answer to it by the time game one rolls around. Because of the issue with Lagway, I think it's pretty important to have a guy who can be taking most of the reps as a number 2 to just in case the worst happens. But I still right now I'd lean Warner just based off of what I heard. But you are right; it kind of has been a roller coaster for that spot.
I personally think we'll see all 3 of them in the LIU game.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the second game, depending on how well it's going, whoever gets the majority reps out of Warner and Bailey will probably be he's the second guy. He's the one going in if Lagway gets hurt.
Yeah, because I don't know if we'll get a true depth chart until the LSU game. Because they remember, at least for the injury reports as well, they don't have to give an injury report until the first SEC game. It's only for conference games that they have to put that injury report out. Well, Florida doesn't have a conference game until week 3. So will they even put out a depth chart before then? Because remember, they got kind of weird. They got kind of weird about the depth chart with the whole injury report thing that started last year. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I can see them putting one out for the first games because it's the first game of the season, and say, hey, that's kind of going to be our base to work with for the whole year, and you'll get your injury reports for the conference games throughout the season. So maybe we get that initial depth chart, and that will tell us ahead of LIU. But don't be surprised if we don't. We just kind of have to go with with what we see with our own eyes in those first couple games. Oh,
Is
Hey, Dave.
is Tank still set to be the returner this season, or is he moving somewhere else where his speed can be maybe utilized, especially if Lagway's throwing? He can probably get downfield because we all know Lagway can launch it accurately.
I think Tank for sure will be involved in special teams. With Trey Wilson being out, I think that has kind of come along where he's going to be involved. And Vernell Brown III. I think Florida's working those guys out pretty good for special teams. So Vernell Brown III has been involved on both, I believe, kickoff and punt return, and Tank on punt returns as well. So the names that we've kind of wanted to hear in those return spots. Now, maybe it's because of the injuries, and they'll end up trusting Trey Wilson because he's got the experience at punt returner. But and I've said this on before. To me, if it's somewhat close, if you trust your young guys who probably aren't going to be in the starting lineup as much as your starters or getting as many reps, put those guys on special teams in. If there's not much of a separation from Trey Wilson and Vernell Brown III as a punt returner, then give it to Vernell Brown III or Tank Hoggins, whoever it is. So I'm a big proponent of getting your young guys in there. Hopefully the moment's not too big for him, and I think we've seen throughout Billy Napier's history, he puts a lot of guys he trusts back there, especially at punt returner. We've seen it be Ricky Pearsall. We've seen it be Trey Wilson. It was like Xavier Henderson, I think it was, in year one. So it's kind of been the experienced guys that he's put back there. But I think, try and help this team wherever you can. Try and help this offense with field position wherever you can. Go put some speed. Go put some playmakers back there in your return game.
How do we feel about TJ Abrams? I know he's like really quiet. Like nobody really talks about him.
Yeah, I mean, he had the nice catch yesterday from Aiden Warner in the scrimmage, about a 30-yard touchdown in the back of the end zone. So certainly a name that gets overlooked. Admittedly for myself, don't hear a whole lot for one. But, with Trey Wilson and Aiden Mizell and J. Michael Sturdivant, and then everybody's so excited about the freshman coming in. I mean, Tank kind of gets lost a little bit too as far as the wide receiver talk goes. To me, I think you'll get an answer from one of those guys. Yeah.
Do you think he could be a contributor on like special teams though?
Yeah, I don't see why not. So will those guys kind of make their separation there? I would imagine we hear enough from one of them to know if they're going to be, at Florida at receiver in seasons down the road. I would hope that we get answer from one of those guys instead of kind of being in limbo like we are now because of the experience that's in front of them and the excitement of the freshman that's behind them.
They also still have time to progress, even if it doesn't happen this year.
They do. But do they feel the heat, of the freshmen behind them and think it might be better if they get a fresh start somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at TJ
Retention has
Abrams.
been a key to the strength of this team. So let's just continue to pay the players that we recruit and develop and keep them here.
Yeah, I was looking at TJ Abrams kind of like Brandon James aspect. Like he didn't really play running back when he was there. When Brandon James didn't play running back when he was here, but he was really contributor on like kick returns and punt returns. And if he's going to play a role there, that's a role he can play. You know what I mean? But I don't know how the coaching staff feels about that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not really a name, good for him making a play in the scrimmage yesterday, getting your opportunity and making a play. So maybe that does do something for you down the road where you have now earned more playing time on game day.
Right.
That's how it works out. But, I mean, Florida's deep at receiver. That's what we want. We want the competition there. So there's going to be some odd men out.
Yeah, I'm ready, Dave. It's so close, but yet so far.
And that's the thing. Like, I hate the cupcake games, but if there has to be cupcake games, I'd rather kick the season off against cupcake teams. Because you're always excited for that first game, no matter really who it's against. The big opener and then the cupcake game in week 2, I kind of just always hated that because it just kind of like, oh, the season's here and now. Like, I used to hate those November ones, too. Like, they played their part. You'd play Charleston Southern or somebody the week before you played FSU. That's kind of went away. We don't have those little, those weak opponents before we play FSU anymore. It's usually an SEC game now. But opening up with the cupcakes, it don't really matter because we're all excited for the season. But I'm ready for it, too. So it's definitely different than what we've had under Billy Napier and counting down the season and counting down to a big game to kick off the season.
Well, all we got to do is look at it like it's 2 more weeks of extra preparation.
Yep. Hey, somebody brought up a good point, too. Now, I mean, it's not lost on anybody, and I know it's not a new thought here, but with these, minor bumps and bruises that it seems Florida's dealing with right now, maybe it is, blessing in disguise now that we have Long Island, that we have USF and not Utah, not Miami to kick the season off. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think some of it's overblown. I think we get a lot more reporting on Florida and the injuries that are out there. I mean, I know we just saw Jam Miller for Alabama now going to miss maybe the first month of the season. So it's not just a Florida thing. Injuries are happening everywhere. We do seem to hear more about it at Florida. We follow Florida a bit more. Like I said, from everything I can gather, there's maybe the most major of injuries has been LJ McCray, and that's still not major. He's not going to miss the season. He might miss a little bit of time, but it's still not major where, we're not going to see him in 2025. So we've avoided, knock on wood, the major injuries so far at Florida, and we'll see where it goes. I think most of it, from what I can tell, is just minor bumps and bruises, but because we're playing LIU game 1, you may not see guys at all. You may not see much of them that game, but I think USF will be the true test. You want to get those reps right before the LSU game.
So I joined a little late, so just excuse me if this has already been answered, but do we feel like DJ's really only going to play one quarter in LIU, or do we feel like he's going to play the first half?
I mean, if he was 100% healthy and Florida's doing what they need to be doing, I'm not playing him past the first quarter. I mean, he could be 100% healthy. To me, it's a preseason game. It's an NFL preseason game. You go out there and you get 2 or 3 drives, and all right, you're out. So, that's where I'm at with it anyway. I wouldn't treat this one any different than if he was 100%. I wouldn't be taking the chances anyway, whether if he was 100% healthy or if he's 75% healthy.
Yeah, God forbid we need a Jordan Travis thing going on.
Right, exactly. Just get him out. Just get him out of there.
You're killing his Heisman chances, Dave. Once again.
hey, if it's going like I want it to, he might have 150 after the first quarter anyway. So
that's true.
One deep.
I don't know about y'all, but
one deep ball.
DJ can leave early. I think he's going to stay all 4 years. That's just what I think. I just think he's that loyal to the program.
No, I don't see it.
Yeah, no.
Well, put it this way: if these injury things happen, I guess that could go either way. Like, if he's not getting the reps, if he's not getting the playing time he wants, then maybe it stretches that way. But I'm planning on only 2 more seasons with him.
Yeah, we'll see.
Especially in the way that the injuries were messaged about him.
Now, if Gatorade want to step up and give him about $7 million a year, maybe so.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything that I've heard is it's not even about the money for him. He's just here for the program. It's
not. But I mean, you got to think about your future at some point too. And if you keep getting dinged up in college, then go make your money where you can, when you can.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
hey, question for Dave.
Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, it's a little bit off topic, but I'm
That's
sure
fine.
you're probably ready to go.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Gators episode of the Netflix SEC thing that came out? What did you think of it?
Surprisingly, I have seen some of it. I haven't got to finish the whole thing yet. I mean, I know it's not that long of an episode, but I mean, certainly
It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it too is I've kind of been warned. They don't show enough of when Florida was winning. It was about when Florida was losing.
That's the whole thing. It's, the first if it's 30 minutes long, the first 28 minutes is about that, and then the last 4 games is like flash the score on the screen and it's out.
Honestly, I think it's probably past halfway where I'm at with it, because it wasn't long after I guess it was the locker room speech or whatever, so. But certainly, from what I could gather, gave Billy Napier some more respect in the college football circles about how he handled it and how he seems to handle it and how the players responded to it.
Yeah, that part with Napier, that part was good. I just didn't really like the way they laid out the whole episode. Being the Florida episode, it was only focusing on the first half and it being focusing. Mostly on the quarterbacks and then DJ, and then kind of just breezing through when DJ actually played and started. It didn't make a lot of sense. Anyway.
Yeah, a little nugget about that was I did have Netflix actually reached out to me to use a soundbite when Andy Staples was on my show after the Texas A&M game, but I don't think they ever used it. So they reached out to me first, and I told them it was okay, and I asked them what I needed to do, but then I never heard back from them. So I don't think they used it. But that would have been kind of cool. All right, guys. Good stuff. Good stuff. Ready for the season. Anything else? Like no. Nope. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, that'll do it for this Gators Breakdown Plus chat. If you want to become a member, you can join. Link is in the description to join. GatorsBreakdownPlus.com as well. Extra episodes, ad-free episodes, Discord chats right here, newsletter, all that good stuff. Be ramping it up with the season on the horizon. All right, everybody. Thanks.
All right, go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.